Welcome back to Traveling Dice. This is Jason. We have game 4 of our Escalation campaign between the Orcs and Goblins and the Wood Elves. We are now at 800 points. Just to refresh, every week we increase by 100 points, and you also have the opportunity to swap out 20% of your army. So I have definitely added in the BSB. I was really sick and tired of having all these leadership issues, so I'm hoping that my new Night Goblin BSB is going to help me out. I dropped the level 2 on my Night Goblin Shaman, and instead of making him a level 2, he's a level 1. He's got the Dispel Scroll, and I added the Ruby Ring of Ruin, so he has a bound item there. I'm down to 1 Fanatic in that unit, and I did drop 2 of the Night Goblin Spearmen, but I have boosted the Savage Orc unit to now be Biggins. So hopefully they'll pack a little bit more punch, maybe able to punch through some of those treekin. So the big addition for me, I think, is the BSB. Hopefully this resolves my leadership issues. I'll be on a rerollable 8.
My BSB is armed with the Armor of Fortune, giving him heavy armor and a 5-up ward. He also has a great weapon. My Goblin War Boss is armed with a great weapon, and he has the Talisman of Preservation.
Jumping over to the Wood Elves here. They have added a unit champion in both treekin units, as well as the Dryad unit. And then also added 6 Dryads, so that unit of Dryads is really starting to fill out. For this round, the Spellsinger is staying on the Lore of Fire. The terrain for this match, we have the 2 forests. One of them will be deployed by the Wood Elf player. The Grey Hill is a Temple of Skulls, which a champion or character within 6 inches can seek the fortune of chaos, and on a d6 roll of 2 through 6, a random stat is increased by d3. On a d6 roll of 1, they're just removed as a casualty with no save. We have a regular hill, and we have a marsh. This is a Earthblood Mirror. It gives regen 6 up if your unit's in there, but you are dealing with dangerous terrain checks for moving through the marsh. And just as another reminder, every victory leading up to the final game at 1,500 points yields that player 50 bonus points for the final match. Our current standing is the Wood Elves have 2 victories against the Orc and Goblin, 1 victory. All right, we will show you after we've deployed. We just finished deployment here. I've got the marsh on my deployment zone. I deployed the Doom Diver inside the marsh, thinking that if something ends up charging it, they're going to have to come in and take some dangerous terrain. I'm not going to move, so I should be fine. And I get the 6-up regen, which, hey, is not bad. My battle line here, going across, I've got the Chariot, the Savage Orcs, the Block of Night Goblins, and the Trolls. I rolled my spell. I ended up getting Itchy Nuisance, so in addition to the Fireball and the Ruby Ring. So that's cool. I like that spell. My opponent, opposite my Chariot here, has his archers there in the forest, next to a unit of treekin. Across my center from the Night Goblins or the Dryads. Maybe they're thinking about trying their luck at the Temple of Skulls. We have the treekin off on my right flank with the Eagle in that back corner. All right, so I finished deploying first, so I'll get a +1. And I got a 5. And my opponent got a 1. All right, so I'll take the first turn. See you in a minute. We just finished up the top of turn 1. My army kind of functioned like a normal army here, which is nice. The Savage Orcs and the Night Goblins all passed their animosity check. The Trolls passed their stupidity check. Everybody advanced forward. Rolled a nice big number, 9, during the magic phase for the Winds of Magic. My opponent did channel. I tried a 6-dice Fireball from the Ruby Ring on the treekin over there, which was dispelled. But I did manage to get off Itchy Nuisance on the treekin over here on the right flank, reducing their movement down to 1. So these guys are going to have a hard time advancing next round, which is cool. Went to fire my Doom Diver, and I was targeting those juicy archers over there, and rolled a misfire, and then rolled a 1. So this guy destroyed himself on the first turn, which is a real bummer. I had big plans for him. We're on to the bottom of turn 1. All right, the bottom of turn 1 was action-packed here. The Dryad champion tried to seek the favor of chaos, and he was deemed unworthy, and he died to the Temple of Skulls, which is great. The treekin want to try their luck, so they're sliding over there. He's got the champion up there now. We got a lot of balancing acts here on the Chessex dice boxes. Remember that treekin was reduced in terms of their movement to 1, so they went up 2 inches. The eagle's pushing up my right flank, kind of threatening the trolls here a little bit. And we went over to the magic phase. My opponent rolled a huge magic phase. I think it was 9 dice he had. He threw 6 dice at Flame Cage on my Orc and Goblin unit, which does initial damage, and then it also does a strength 4 hit to every model if they decide to move in the next round. And knowing Orcs and Goblins, it's possible that you don't have a choice. So I used my Dispel Scroll to stop that. My opponent then had 3 dice left, and he threw 3 dice at a fireball targeting my chariot. And he rolled double 6s, and he killed the chariot, which is kind of a bummer, but double 6s, hey, I'm kind of crossing my fingers. And he gets a small round template on the archer unit. Every model underneath there takes a strength 10 hit, and he wounds with every single one. So he lost 4 archers. He took a wound on his spell singer, and the unit panicked and they ran off the board. So those guys are actually gone. We're on to turn 2. We finished up the top of turn 2, and the Savage Orcs again managed to pass their animosity, and they advanced at the full clip. Night Goblins did the same. The Trolls failed their stupidity check, and then thanks to my new BSB already paying off with the reroll, they succeeded. So they moved up into position here to do some counter charges, etc. Went over to the magic phase. I ended up with 5 dice. My opponent had 4 dispel dice. I threw all 5 dice at the Ruby Ring of Ruin, and I decided to target the Dryads. And I managed to kill 3 of those guys, which is great. On to the bottom of turn 2. We are about halfway through the bottom of turn 2. The Dryads charged the Night Goblins, releasing the Fanatic. He only went 4 inches, which means the Dryads landed on top of him, taking 2d6 strength 5 hits, killing 4 Dryads. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. The treekin made kind of a long charge onto the Trolls, and the Eagles helped him out. The Eagle did pass his dangerous terrain check for landing in the forest. And I think that treekin is really embracing chaos because he is planning on staying on the hill there. So we're going on to the close combat phase. So we finished off the bottom of turn 2. The combat with the Trolls take only 1 point of damage despite the treekin hitting with 9 of their 10 attacks. But the regen got really hot, and the to wound roll wasn't quite as awesome as the to hit roll. So the Trolls take 1 point of damage, but they do 2 points back to the treekin. Now in that combat, I'm still down by 1 point because my opponent charged and has a flank. So I roll, I'm looking for a 7. I'm right by the general, and I fail my break test, but I've got that BSB again paying off. Reroll, bam, get a 6. The Trolls hang around. We jump over to this combat with the Dryads. The Dryads do manage to kill my Shaman and 3 of my Night Goblins, but they get a bloody nose back, and I break that unit and run them down. So this Night Goblin unit will be 7 inches closer to that hill in just a moment, and the Dryads are removed. Going over to the top of turn 3. We just wrapped up the top of turn 3. The Savage Orcs advanced up towards the treekin. Actually backed the Night Goblins up just a little bit to continue to lead leadership and BSB support to the Trolls. And then we went over to that combat. The Trolls took 2 wounds, which killed off one of my Trolls. I managed to do 1 wound to the Eagle, and then I did 1 wound on the treekin, but he saved it, needing a 6-up armor. He made that armor save, which is too bad. That would have peeled off a treekin, which would have been super helpful. I was down 2, so I'm still within 12 of the general. I'm needing a 6 to hold, and I rolled a 4, which is awesome. So they're going to hang around there. Hopefully they do better next round. Going over to the bottom of turn 3. We finished off the bottom of turn 3 here, and not a great turn for the Orcs and Goblins, unfortunately. It looked promising at first. I managed to do 2 wounds on the treekin champion and 3 wounds on a regular treekin. I dropped one of those guys, but they kill enough Savage Orcs to win the combat by 1, and even with the general and the reroll, I needed a 7 rerollable. I know that's not guaranteed, but the Savage Orcs broke from combat. They did get away. I rolled boxcars for my flee distance, which is nice. So hopefully I'll rally in my turn. That would be great. The Trolls lost that combat as well. Their dice just got real cold. They put a 2nd wound on the Eagle. Would have loved to have killed that guy. And no wounds on the treekin. Would have loved to have peeled off another one of these guys. They're already walking around with 2 wounds. But the Trolls get run down. So the Trolls are gone. and we're going over to the top of turn 4. The top of turn 4 was a very fast half round here. The Savage Orcs rallied, which is great. They reformed to face the Treekin, anticipating a charge. And the Night Goblins also reformed to try to do something about these guys here. So on to the bottom of turn 4. Just finished up the bottom of turn 4. The Treekin reformed to face the Night Goblins. The Great Eagle flew back there for a potential rear charge in subsequent rounds. The Treekin here charged the Savage Orcs who had rallied in my turn. During that combat, the Savage Orcs only take 2 wounds. The Treekin's attacks kind of cool off a little bit, and they managed to do that last wound on that Treekin champion, which is great. I still lose this combat. However, I am steadfast. So I had the rerollable Generals 8. I failed the first, and the BSB did pay off in this round, making that reroll with the BSB. So on to the top of turn 5. Disappointing start to the top of turn 5 here. The Night Goblins decide it's time to go and fail their animosity check. Just brutal. And then I roll a 1, which is the get 'em result. Reading the get 'em result, they inflict wounds on another unit that causes animosity within 12 inches. And it doesn't seem to say that the unit can't be targeted if they're in close combat. So somehow my unit killed 2 of the Savage Orcs, which is just devastating. And the Savage Orcs try to, I guess, throw rocks back. They fail to kill any of the Night Goblins. So the get 'em result, you do D6 strength 3 hits. And with D6 strength 3 hits, I managed to kill 2 Savage Orcs. Ouch. And then the other brutal part is I now don't get to charge the Treekin. Maybe my opponent will charge me, we'll see. But I was really hoping to get in there. Now I'm probably facing the Eagle and the Treekin at the same time. But we have this combat here, so let's finish off the top of turn 5. So we finished off the top of turn 5. The Savage Orcs took 2 wounds from the Treekin in combat. 1 was from the Stomp. And then I was looking at a 5 to hold. I was no longer within the VSB or general range, which is unfortunate. And I broke. I did get away, but the Treekin's right behind me here. Going over to the bottom of turn 5. We finished up the bottom of turn 5. The Treekin charged the Savage Orc who had to flee, and he was run down by the Treekin. So I'm down that unit here, and this guy is almost near my deployment zone. Back over here in the center, the Treekin and the Great Eagle charged the Night Goblin unit and just wreaked havoc on this unit. My Lord ended up in a challenge with the Treekin champion here in the center, and my Lord took a wound, and he did 1 wound to the Treekin, but the Treekin made his 6-up ward save, so didn't get that one through. The Night Goblins kind of died and drove. I did manage to kill the Great Eagle, which is amazing. Prevented him from having the rear and subsequent attacks in a prolonged combat here. I lost the combat by 4, but I was steadfast because of those ranks, and I made my initial leadership check. So this combat will continue as we go into turn 6. We finished up the top of turn 6 here. What a great game. The combat challenge continued, and another wound done on my war boss, my general. He's only got 1 wound left. He did manage to return the favor, and he did a wound on the Treekin champion here, which is nice. And then the Night Goblins just go off. I need 6s to wound, and I managed to get 3 wounds through from the Night Goblin spearmen. I think that they felt that their lives were on the line there, and they're probably right. And I managed to do 2 wounds after his saves, which is just great. So took out one of the guys. Now my opponent wisely took off from this side at the time. That prevented my BSB from being able to attack. So smart move by my opponent. I still lose this combat, but I hold and I reform. So now I'll be able to bring a few more attacks to bear here. We're going into the bottom of turn 6, and I think this combat's going to decide the game. We just finished up the bottom of turn 6. What an amazing game we had here. Coming right down to the wire. That challenge that was going on between my war boss and the Treekin champion. The Treekin got a wound through, and I was just rolling that 4-up ward. I hadn't made one yet, and I think the combat was really swinging on that, and I make that 4-up ward. And not only do I make that 4-up ward, but then I get that last wound on the Treekin champion, killing that guy. The Night Goblins get 1 more wound through on the remaining Treekin, and the BSB finishes him off. This is a victory for the Orcs and Goblins, coming right down to the last half of the last turn. Awesome game. The campaign stands at 2 wins for the Orcs and Goblins and 2 wins for the Wood Elves. Let us know in the comments, are you cheering on the Wood Elves or are you cheering on the Orcs and Goblins? If you enjoyed this, video, please do like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for the 900 point round.